So with number 3, we're told to find the requested value, and we've been given a piecewise function here, and hopefully these look familiar to you. We dealt with them at the end of practice test number 1. I think starting around question 48, we did several of these exact type of questions where we were giving some value to find. So in this case, we're given f of 4. They want us to find the value of our piecewise function when the x is 4. So let's see what we have here. So 4f of x equals 7x plus 7. This part of the piecewise function only exists if x is less than or equal to 0. We have f of x equals 2 minus 3x if 0 is less than x, less than 3. So x has to be somewhere between 0 and 3, not including 0 or 3. And then we have f of x equals x if x is greater than or equal to 3. So if we're trying to find f of 4, we have to, based on the domain restrictions here, determine which piece of the piecewise function we're going to plug in this value of 4 and then evaluate. So let's see what we have here. And it's not a bad idea to quickly go ahead, take the input value that you're using and stick it in for each x and then determine whether or not your inequality is true. So for example, here in this first piece, 7x plus 4, if we're only to use x's that are less than or equal to 0, well, we can plug in the 4 and then less than or equal to 0 and ask ourselves, is this a true statement? Is 4 less than or equal to 0? Well, no, we know that's not true, right? So we are not going to use this first piece. All right, let's go ahead and take a look here at the second piece. F of x equals 2 minus 3x if 0 is less than x is less than 3. So 0 less than x, but remember our x is now 4, so 4 is less than 3. All right, well, let's take a look here. 0 is less than 4. Is that a true statement? Yeah, it sure is. All right, so far we're looking good. Now let's take a look here. 4 is less than 3. How about that part? Well, no, that's not true, right? 4 is not less than, is not smaller than 3. And so since this part of the inequality is false, the entire thing is false. And so we are not going to use this second piece of the piecewise function, which leaves this third piece, and hopefully this will be true when we plug in our x value. So let's see. 4 is greater than or equal to 3. Is that true? Sure is. 4 is bigger than, greater than, or equal to 3. And so we know we're going to be using this piece of the piecewise function to evaluate. All right, so we want to find f of 4 equals, and now remember, we're using this last piece of the piecewise function here. And you'll notice that this is just an x, right? Notice the first two pieces had a lot of other things going on, right? The x was being multiplied here by 7. Let me get rid of this so we can actually see. The x was being multiplied by a factor of 7 and then added with 7. Here we had 2 minus 3 times x. So a lot of things going on in these first two pieces, but here in this last piece, it's just an x. So all they want us to do is take this value, plug it into the x, and what do we get? Well, if we take that 4 and plug it into that x, all we get is 4. And so when we evaluate f of 4, all we get is 4. And so that's our final answer for number 3. There's nothing to add or subtract, nothing to multiply, nothing to divide here. It's just a little old x all by itself. And so number 3, relatively easy, not a whole lot of evaluating going on once we plug in that value 4 for x, because all we have is 4. All right, again, I think we have 1 or 2 more on this practice test, but for even more practice, like I said, you can take a look at practice test number 1, starting with question 48. There were 4 questions, so 48, 49, 50, and 51. You can take a look at this exact type of question for even more practice. All right, I will see you at question number 4.